Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daphne Macedonia, and I have the honor of serving as the USY International President. I know that a lot of you here are wondering, what's going on with USY today? I want to begin by reassuring you, we are growing. After years where Jewish teen engagement has felt uncertain and fragile, we are seeing real momentum again. More teens are walking into our spaces, more chapters are rebuilding energy, more communities are choosing to invest in Jewish teen life not as something optional, but as something essential. This year, we offered so many opportunities for teens to become part of our USY community. In addition to the USY chapter and immersive events like the Leadership Training Institute that you might have been familiar with when you were in USY, we are also innovating. USY created Chidush, the only winter break Israel trip for teens, where we stood in the place where our story began and felt Judaism in a way that cannot be replicated in a classroom. We had more than 25 conventions and overnighters, more than 50-day programs, and 3 different monthly learning opportunities through fellowships. We have an exciting summer ahead with several trips that are not just travel experiences, but entry points into identity, leadership, and lifelong connection. And just as importantly, we are working to make USY more accessible so that these moments are not reserved for a few, but open to every teen who needs them. USY is more than just programs and the number of participants, though, because what USY really measures is something you cannot chart in a spreadsheet. It measures what it feels like to belong. So I want to ask you to think back for a moment. Think back to when you were a teenager. Think about what it felt like to walk into a room where you were not sure where you fit. You might have been surrounded by people, but still felt like you were on the outside of something everyone else understood. That feeling of being visible but not fully seen is something I think about a lot. At my school, I am often known as the Jew. It is not always said in a cruel way, though sometimes it is, but it is a label that follows me. I am proud to be Jewish, but there is something quietly isolating about being defined by what makes you different instead of simply being part of the group. And for a long time, that was what my Jewish identity felt like to me, something I carried on my own. Then I found USY. I still remember my first convention. I remember the feeling of walking in and immediately wondering if I had made a horrible mistake, if this was just one more place where I didn't belong. I remember thinking very clearly, everyone else seems to already know how to be here and I don't. But USY does something truly special. It does not ask you to belong right away. It creates the conditions for belonging to find you. When I think back to that first convention, I remember how alone I felt. Then someone said hello. Someone invited me to sit with them. Someone used my name because that was my identifier here, not the Jew, but by name, because everyone else here was just like me. Those moments, so ordinary on their own, started to stack together until I wasn't on the outside of the room anymore. I was in it. And then without even noticing when it happened, I belonged. I was part of it. That is what USY does best. It turns I don't belong here into I am a part of this. And once a teen feels that, even once, it stays with them. It shapes how they see themselves. It shapes who they become. Since finding USY, I have not felt alone in my Jewish identity. Not because everything is easy, but because I know I am held by something larger than myself. A community of teens and a network of adults who show up for us consistently, intentionally, and with real care. And I want to say this clearly, that partnership between teens and adults is not secondary to USY. It is the reason USY exists at all, because when adults decide that Jewish teens are worth showing up for, something really awesome happens. Spaces are created where we are not the exception, we are the community. Trips become possible, leadership becomes real, and more importantly, teens begin to believe that they matter, that they are more than worth investing in, and that belief changes a life. It changed mine. So, when I sit here today, I'm not just sharing a story about a youth movement. I'm describing what it feels like to be held by a community before you even know how to ask for it. I'm describing what it means to grow up Jewish in a world where that identity can sometimes feel heavy or isolating, and to discover that you do not have to carry it alone, and you never will again. That is what your support makes possible. Not just conventions, not just trips, but a moment. A moment when a teenager walks into a room, looks around, and for the first time doesn't feel like the only one. A moment when they realize they don't have to explain who they are. A moment when they understand that they belong. And that moment becomes the beginning of everything that comes after. So truly, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for believing in us. And thank you for helping create a world where no Jewish teen has to feel alone.